So, this is that uncomfortable thing. The Pittsburgh Penguins have won the Stanley Cup. And it's not uncomfortable because Pittsburgh wins. Because obviously, if you're a Penguins fan right now, you're drinking all this in and you're happy. If you're a Predators fan, this is one of the worst nights as a hockey fan you've ever had. There were people with the live stream I watched who claimed that hockey is fake and rigged. It's not fake and rigged. It was crappy officiating. And there was crappy officiating throughout the playoffs. And sometimes it helped Pittsburgh and sometimes it screwed Pittsburgh. I didn't see that it really helped any one team any more than any other. Pittsburgh was fortunate tonight. They were. But I really believe that if that game had gone to overtime tonight, let's say that Nashville goal counted and Pittsburgh tied it up with a minute left, momentum's on Pittsburgh's side. Pittsburgh, I really think, would have won that game in overtime had it gone to overtime 2-1. And it's not a lack of belief in Nashville. It's that Pittsburgh is one of the most opportunistic teams I've ever seen. And I think that's what we witnessed tonight. And the goal by Holmquist completely sums up how Pittsburgh's playoffs went. He bounced the puck off the numbers on Rene's jersey. There's no way Rene could have saved that puck. None. And he did it in such a fashion that no defenseman was able to do anything about it either. And you know, it was the one goal of the night, so it's not like we can look at Rene and go, he blew it again. His numbers for the final are not going to be great. They're not. But Pekka Rinne in Nashville played very, very well. The difference tonight was so did Matt Murray. Yes, the goal should have counted. Absolutely the goal should have counted. It should have been 1-1. It should have been going overtime. But Matt Murray was a brick wall. As I stated during the live stream, a good penalty kill. Their best player will be their goaltender. That happened tonight. Pittsburgh's best penalty killer was their goaltender. And it was fun to watch in that, not as a guy who's cheering for Nashville, but in terms of all playoffs, I've had criticisms of defenses not letting goaltenders see the puck. So you'll see a bank shot go off 2 or 3 different sticks, and then it goes in behind the goalie. And people will say, oh, the goalie should have had that. And then they'll allow a few more goals that are weird deflections or screenshots. Matt Murray didn't have that tonight. Pittsburgh blocked players out and kept the lane clear. So he had a clear vision of the puck 9 times out of 10. And that's really all you can ask for. Make sure that a guy doesn't have a shot from a prime scoring position on the ice, and make sure the goaltender can see the puck. So Nashville had a lot of shots in the third. They had more than Pittsburgh, but they didn't have great scoring opportunities, and this is kind of what I've been saying during this entire round. Pittsburgh has been very opportunistic, and when they get a shot, it's usually from a really prime scoring position on the ice, and they make it count. There's some criticism about Sidney Crosby getting the Conn Smythe. Crosby gets the Conn Smythe, and here's why. Yes, Jake Gensel had 13 goals. I believe he only had 1 in the final, and I don't think he had any in the last, I think it was 4 games of the final. So, he was largely invisible on the score sheet the last few games. Crosby took over in Game 4. They lost the game, but he took over in Game 4. Continued it in Game 5, and honestly, by the time tonight started, it was Crosby's trophy. Yes, Malkin scored more points. Malkin, I think you could argue, was more consistent, and you could very well argue that Evgeny Malkin deserved the Calder. Not the Calder, the Conn Smythe. I've had a little bit to drink, so there's that. But I don't have a problem with Crosby winning it. My groan over Crosby winning that and then holding up Stanley Cup is that, and I mean this, Gary Bettman needs to not be the face of the NHL during these moments. That needs to stop. He is so reviled so universally reviled by all sports fans. He can't be the face of hockey during these big moments. Nobody wants to hear him speak. You can see him and he's doing that uncomfortable thing he does. And it's like, don't mug for the camera and don't play it off like, oh, look at the heat I'm getting. It's not wrestling. It's not good for the sport that every time a trophy is handed out at the Stanley Cup presentation, whether it's the Stanley Cup or the Conn Smythe, the fans are booing their bloody heads off because Gary Bettman's on the ice. You can fix this simply. Jim Rutherford goes on the ice and awards both trophies. Are Nashville fans going to be any happier? No. Are they going to be universally booing? No. Put Mario Lemieux on the ice to hand out the trophies as the owner. Get Gary Bettman off the ice. I don't even think Pittsburgh fans are going to argue with me on this one. How cool would it be to see Mario Lemieux on the ice saying, and the MVP is Sidney Crosby? Stanley Cup, Sidney Crosby. And the other thing, too, with tonight's win, Sidney Crosby has cemented his legacy as one of the greatest of all time. He is in the conversation. And we can all debate forever how he plays, how clean he does or doesn't play, but he is one of the greatest I've ever seen. And he comes through in big games. And he got hurt in the series against Washington, and he came back, and he didn't look like himself. Then against Ottawa, he looked better, and in this series, he looked better than he did against Ottawa. And I haven't been checking the news yet on the sports sites, but I guarantee that it's going to come out that a lot of these Penguins and Predators were injured and playing hurt during the finals. It's the nature of the beast. It's not a fun part of the game, but it is a part of the game. I personally view the Penguins right now as being every bit as good as the Red Wings were in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I think that in a time where the original idea of a dynasty, which is 3 Stanley Cups in 4 years, while that idea and that dream may be a little bit unrealistic, I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh were to win one in the next 2 years, because as long as you have Crosby and Malkin, you got a shot. And even if Fleury goes, so Fleury, this is his last Stanley Cup. He gets his 3rd Stanley Cup as a goaltender, which is impressive. Murray is a damn good goaltender. Letang is going to get better, and I can't see him being hurt like he was this year again next year. You add Letang to this lineup, you got a whole new vibe, a whole new feeling. And no matter what they lose through retirement and free agency, the Penguins are still the Penguins. And this isn't about liking or disliking a team right now. This is about recognizing that they are the best team in the NHL. They were the best team going into the playoffs, and they were the best team throughout the playoffs. There's no disputing that. I wanted to see Washington knock them out. I wanted to see Ottawa knock them out. And then I wanted to see Nashville knock them out. And it just hasn't happened. And would I be surprised to see them do it again next year? Yes, because I think the losses they're going to take this year are going to be... I think they're going to be a little harder to take than in previous seasons. It looks like Matt Cullen's retired. And what a way to go out with back-to-back Stanley Cups. And I think this is going to be Kunitz's last run, too. I still see him on UFA lists for this summer, but I know he's not going to go anywhere but Pittsburgh, and I can't see him coming back next year. And I think there's going to be some depth guys they lose, and they're going to have to bring in some young guys, and the expansion draft's going to hit them somewhere. Somebody's going to go to Vegas, and it's going to be really hard for them to keep this team together. But they can get a decent enough roster together again to make a run for 3 in a row. And I'll be there. And I know there's fans tonight saying, I'm done with the NHL, I'm done, it's over, I'm not watching it anymore. Yeah, I've been that guy. I've had that conversation with myself. I'm done watching hockey, that's it. I think 2010 was the year I remember when Vancouver was choking out against Chicago, I was like, why do I watch this? Because that was the same year that Boston had a 3-0 series lead on Philadelphia and blew it. They lost 4 games in a row, had a 3-0 lead in Game 7, and blew the lead in Game 7. And that Stanley Cup playoff, I said, I'm not watching this anymore. I'm done. Hockey's just, it just taunts me. It hates me, it taunts me, and I can't stand it. If you feel that way tonight, things will get better. If the fix was in, and here's my issue, and I understand there's fans right now saying the fix is in. The problem is, in 2011, I heard the fix was in for Boston to win the Stanley Cup. They haven't won since. 1994, I heard the fix was in for the Rangers. And they haven't won since. The last time the Wings won, I heard, the fix is in. The Wings are just, this is just what the NHL wants, and they haven't won since that. That was 2008. The NHL isn't smart enough to fix hockey. The NHL isn't able to do that kind of a conspiracy with that many people and get away with it. You're giving the NHL too much credit. The NHL is in need of better enforcement of the rules, whether it's playoffs or regular season, and they need to decide what isn't a goal between now and October. And the fact that these two items helped Pittsburgh at times may make it appear that there's a conspiracy in place. There's not. As much as Crosby does things that you go, that should be a penalty. Things happen to Crosby just as often that if you're paying attention, you go, that should be a penalty too. That they almost cancel each other out. And if you're a Penguins fan, you're going to say he takes more abuse than he gives. And if you're not a Penguins fan, you're probably going to say he gives more abuse than he takes. It doesn't matter. He is the best player of his generation. He is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion, a 2-time Conn Smythe winner. He is an Art Ross winner. He is a Maurice Richard Trophy winner. He's won the Ted Lindsay Award. He is in the conversation in terms of being one of the greatest of all times. And the last thing I want to mention with this is, it was mentioned tonight on Coach's Corner that Evgeny Malkin not being in the top 100 for the Centennial for the NHL, that it was criminal, and it is. Malkin now has 3 Stanley Cup rings to his name. He has numerous awards as well, and should definitely have been in the top 100 players of all time. I don't begrudge players who play on teams I don't cheer for. I don't favor players on teams I do cheer for. I do my best to separate those things out. I give credit where it's due when it's due. This Penguins team is damned impressive. They weren't being denied tonight. And I sensed that from the opening faceoff, and I also sensed some fear from the Nashville Predators. It felt different tonight. It felt different that they were on the verge of elimination. It felt different that they had to win or they were out, because they haven't been in that position the entire playoffs. It felt really different. And by the end of the night, Pittsburgh had shown themselves, and have shown themselves, to be the better team throughout the series. At times, Nashville has controlled the play, but it's all about winning the games. Pittsburgh won 4 out of 6. They found a way to win those 4 out of 6, and they were the better team for the series. Nashville next year, I could see them winning it. I could absolutely see the Predators winning it next year. Easily. You guys let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for all the support you guys have been showing me lately. It's been awesome. I've been saying this a lot lately. I'm humbled by the support I receive from you guys. I am flattered by it, and it has made a huge difference to everything. And you're going to notice some production changes in the coming weeks. I intend on getting studio lights and figuring out how to make them work in this room so that the lighting you're seeing now will be more even studio lighting and more friendly for the HD crowd. And I have the microphone, I have the computer, and the webcam, and next is the lights. I'm very gradually getting there. I have the backdrop. I have everything I need for the backdrop. We're very gradually getting there. And I thank you for that. There will be changes coming this week. I thank you all for being part of it. And I'm very grateful for all your support. And I will be talking to you guys again tomorrow. Thanks again. Have a good night. And for Nashville fans, I know it sucks. And I've been there. As a Bruins fan, I've been there before they won the Stanley Cup. I was there a number of times before they won the Stanley Cup. Eventually they won it, and it felt even sweeter when they did. Not great it was against the Canucks, but hey. Nashville, I believe, will get there. Thanks again. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.